Hello and welcome to this week's angling blog. Today you join me on the banks of the River Ribble and we're in search of Dace on the Bolo and hopefully the feeder. As you can see behind me, it's flat calm, there's not a breath of wind and the river is quite low and clear, so it's going to be tough today. It hasn't got any clarity at all in it. I can see probably 10-15 yards out, so we're going to be going, if you look behind me here you can see where the shadow is. That's the type of area where we're going to be fishing today. So we'll quickly go over the setup, the bait tray, and we'll get straight into the fishing. So the first thing I did when I arrived at the peg is mixed up the ground bait. It's Hinders, Mark Pollard's supercharged natural black ground bait. It's got a lovely aniseed smell. If any of you ever visited like Blackpool as a kid and went in the rock shop, my dad's favourite rock was aniseed, and that's what it reminded me of. There's plenty of particles in it. I've added some Cheshire particle hemp in and a few grains of corn. So the first thing that I'm going to cover is the feeder. I've got a Corum 11-foot Ambition quiver tip rod, and I've got that with a Corum axis reel with 6-pound line. So I've got that down to a Dinsmore's open cap feeder, quite a long hook link of 2-pound line to a size 16 Camazan animal hook. Feeder fishing is not really something that I've done much on the channel. It is something that I did when I first started river fishing, and then I really got into me float fishing. But I do enjoy a day on the feeder, and if that's something that you want to see on the channel, then leave it in a comment below and I'll try and get a feeder video up on the channel. Boat setup for today: my 17-foot Preston Innovations carbon active rod, again Corum axis reel 3000 size. On there is 4-pound 4-ounce float fish. Purely down to the amount of distance that we're going out today in control, I've got a 3-gram Bolo down to a bulk shot and an Olivet, and then probably a 2-foot hook link down to a size 18, again Camazan animal hook, and I've just got 2 number 8 droppers on the line. We'll take a quick look at the bait tray and the swim that we're going to fish today. The bait tray for today, I've got 2.5 pints of red maggot, around about 2.5 pints of Cheshire particle hemp, and then I've got the ground bait. As I say, it's Hinders, Mark Pollard, supercharged, and I've mixed a bit of brown crumb in with it as well. And as you can see, it's quite a lot of particle in the ground bait, and a lovely dark ground bait. You can see down there how clear the water is. It's going to add that bit of colour and hopefully give them fish a nice bed to feed over. Looking at the swim, you can see it's quite shallow, and that's the swim we're going to fish. I'm going to be putting maggots out in front of me, just where that line is there, and then round about where that white car is I'm going to be putting hemp. Round about where you've just seen that fish top is where I'm hoping to be getting me bites. That's the hope. Let's make a start. To start the session off, I'm just going to make round about 10-15 really quick casts just with the feeder, and in there you've got the ground bait and just hemp. The maggots obviously you'll feed via catapult and they'll naturally go through the swim. This is all about really getting some bait down on the bottom in the swim and ensuring that you've got that hemp and that smell and the ground bait as a bed to keep running over on the Bolo. So just making a start, casting past where I expect to get me bites, feeding with the maggot, and then drawing the float back into that line. What you're trying to do is obviously get a line of bait going down the river, and then you can just edge the bait down. So into the first fish of the day, it looks like a dace. A nice start to the session. That's a cracking dace to start the vlog. What a lovely dace that is to start the vlog. So as you can see there, we've made quite an okay start, getting a few bites and getting the bites quite close in, which, you know, always helps. You don't really want to be going past halfway, so the fact that we're getting 1 or 2 bites on our side of the river is really positive. I said they're only small, but at the start of the session you're not really, at the start of the session you're just more bothered about getting bites really. I think one thing that we do need to happen today, we need this cloud cover to kind of stay about. It will give the fish the confidence to stay on our side of the river. But as you can see there, we're getting the bites just a nice distance down the peg, and all Dace so far. The beauty of this peg is that obviously you can flick past where you're getting your bites, gives you the time to feed the swim, and you'd almost get 2 bites of the cherry, because obviously you can get a bite out there, but then just bring it back into that line of bait, and as you can see where that hemp landed, you can imagine it's all going down in one line, and your bait's just going down in that column of feed. And the beauty of the Bolo is you can just edge that bait through. There we go. You can see there from the start of the session where, you know, it took us a couple of trots down to get a bite. We're now getting a bite every time we go down the river. And that's a lovely autumn Dace. And say when it gets to February next year, the better fish will move in, but for this time of year it's a lovely Dace that. And just coming over that ground bait and hemp with double maggot on the hook. So when you're casting the Bolo out, best just to hold it in your hand like that so the line's tight, flick it out and then just touch the reel just before the float hits the surface, and as you can see you get 2 plops. One of them is your float, the next one is the actual olivet, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for them 2 plops as the 2 of them hit the water. That lets you know that the line and the float is separated on the cast and you're fishing proper. If it all lands in a big clump, just try and reel it in as quick as possible. And that's a better fish just coming on that line, and as you can see there now, just a slightly better Dace coming from the ones that we were getting earlier on. And that's how on a river you can, you know, draw fish into your area, drawing that float back into that hemp and that line of maggots, just holding it back and edging the bait through, and there we go. And when you're getting a fish like that, it is great fun. There's another slightly better Dace, shot down, just hooked into a nice fish. Whether it's foul hooked, I don't know, but it's putting up a good battle. And yeah, always feels you when you get one of them in the gill or something like that. In fact, there's 2 2 on the same. There's 2 Dace on one hook link. Now that is a first. So every half an hour, just stopping, having a cup of coffee, and just putting out some feederfuls of just the ground bait and the hemp. So remember that the Bolo is a method that targets them fish in the bottom layers of the water. So just putting the ground bait and the hemp out will just keep them fish down there, put some of that ground bait in the smell in the river, when you're putting your maggots in front of you all the time, that naturally will draw the fish up in the water to compete to get to the maggots quicker. That's what the fish will just naturally do. They'll compete with each other to get to the source of the food. With this, you just put in the hemp and the ground bait and introducing some quick casts to get some of that ground bait and the bait on the bottom of the river. You can see there's plenty of taps there. Missed loads because I've been sipping me brew, but what it is doing, it's doing the job of getting that feed. I'm say a little small dace on that cast, but it's doing the job of getting that ground bait in the hemp and that smell on the bottom. There we go, first cast over the top with the Bolo, and although it's not a massive dace, it's better than the ones that we were getting on the feeder, but shows, you know, going over that ground bait just congregates the fish. You've got to be accurate with how you do it. There's no point casting your feeder all over the place. The whole point is to get some fish homed in on the line you're going over with the Bolo. There we go, just coming over that area we've been feeding, you know, with the feeder, the ground bait and the hemp, while we've been having a brew, and the two together is really working. As I say, the feeder on its own is not something that I fish very often, and I don't think I've done much of it on the channel, so if you would like to see that video, then leave a comment below. But that, my favourite fish of all, the dace. There we go. And you can see there, it's exactly over where that hemp's going down and where they've just been putting that ground bait and hemp in with the feeder. And if you can get it working like that, that's a cracking dace. Let's take a closer look at it. And there we go, there's that lovely dace. And I say lovely, he's absolutely battered on this side, but I bet he's got a few stories to tell. Plenty of winters on the river, run-ins with pike and cormorants and everything in between. You know, a fish with plenty of character, but my favourite fish of all, the dace. So as you've seen on the screen, we've had a few nice days, that single nice roach, and when I said about hemp seed earlier on, about how you can hold a shoal, you can also use it to get the fish where you want them. And during the session I've been progressively feeding the hemp closer in, and I've managed to get these fish, like you're seeing there, just literally a rod length out. What it's also meant, getting these dace this close in, is I've been able to feed them balls of ground bait that you're seeing on screen now onto that line. You know, that ground bait that I was introducing by the feeder earlier on, now being able to feed them balls just off the rod tip and really put some bait in. Had plenty of bites today. It's been, you know, hard to hit them at times because they have been those fast dace bites, but it's been, you know, great fun. When you can get them this close in, you can really put a weight together, and although they're not very big, they're coming regular to the bank. And these days on the river, really are rare in winter, the days where you don't get any wind and you know you can really dot that float down. And today, you know, just manoeuvring that shoal in, you're really attacking the swim now with big handfuls of hemp, you know, balling that ground bait in every now and again. And when the fish respond like this, it really is where it's at for me. You know, everyone has them parts of fishing that they really enjoy, and for me, you know, working a shoal of dace like this really is where it's at. And you see the fish, and as you can see, the fish are well and truly on the feed. I'm just holding that float back, just easing it through that hemp, and there's the bite. And to be honest with you, when it's like this, these are the sessions that you don't want to end. You're praying that sun slows down, because before you know it, it'll be time to pack in and look at that final net. The sun just dropping in the sky, a roach coming a rod length from the bank, unsurprisingly over that ground bait with that hemp in. That's a nice fish. And that's a fantastic dace to end the session on. Let's have a look at that final net and see how we've done. Right, so the session comes to an end there now, and boy can you feel winter's coming. That temperature since that sun's gone behind the hill really dropped. Today's session is one of them sessions that I really enjoy. As you can see on screen now, been plenty of bites. Not always the quality that you get, but you do get that when you're using maggot as a hook bait. I'm pretty sure if you come here with castor and corn, you probably would pick out the better fish. But plenty of bites, and they're the sessions that I love, where you start off doing one method and then you work that shoal back in towards you, and by the end they will want to chuck. Unfortunately, it was only for the last hour. As you can see from the final net, plenty of bites and an enjoyable day on the bank. Like I said earlier on in the blog, if there's any type of fishing that you want to see, the feeder fishing, or things that aren't featured on the channel, then leave it in the comments below. It always helps me with keeping the channel fresh, new ideas, and maybe it's something that I've not tried and it'll be an adventure to try. For now, I've got a long walk back to the car. For anyone who knows the area, I want to wish you all tight lines in your own fishing. Thank you very much for watching. It'd be great if you could like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.